Hey everyone, I'm Peter Detender, a Microsoft technical trainer. Welcome, or hopefully I can say welcome back, to our MS-4007 Microsoft 365 Copilot User Enablement Specialist course. In this specific module, it's all about envisioning a successful adoption of Microsoft Copilot 365. Dream it to believe it, right? In this module, you'll embark on the first phase, envisioning, of your adoption journey with Microsoft 365 applications and services. This crucial phase focuses on laying the groundwork for successful implementation by teaching you how to identify and prioritize specific scenarios within your organization, understand and leverage available resources effectively, and set measurable business goals. You'll learn how to assemble a dedicated team, define a clear business strategy, and assess your organization's readiness for adoption. The main goal of this specific module is for you to set the foundation for that transformative adoption process, ensuring you're well prepared to navigate the challenges and opportunities ahead within the adoption of Microsoft 365 Copilot. As you recruit the user enablement lead and the additional resources, consider some of the following characteristics to really ensure a successful team. Understanding organizational change management practices. Next to that, get a focus on technical skills across all Microsoft 365 collaboration tools. Think about advancing program management skills. Consider relevant business acumen and visibility to overall AI vision for your organization. Bring in people who have strong written and verbal communication skills. And last, focus on the ability to model desired leadership skills as well. Apart from the user enablement lead, the power and strength of your user enablement team, or UE as I might call it later on, really comes from the team itself, which should be comprised of several different profiles from within the whole organization. In other modules in this course, we already emphasized the importance of project sponsors and business stakeholders. They are really the ones making the business decisions, but also the ones who set out the vision and strategy of the organization itself. So once you know about these, it's up to you to find a way to really plug in your Microsoft 365 Copilot, making sure it still aligns with that vision. Next, you do have the success owners, having the overall key responsibility and deliverable of making the Copilot adoption and rollout successful. Obviously, the UE lead will be a key player in the team, closely followed by the business representation leaders, which could be team leads, business unit managers, and the like. Now, although we recommend having each of these roles fulfilled throughout your rollout, you may find that you don't require them all to get started within your identified solutions. Apart from the leadership roles in the team, you will heavily rely on the IT professionals within the organization. As, although we emphasized before that adopting and deploying Microsoft 365 Copilot into your organization is not just an IT project, you can obviously not guarantee a successful adoption by bypassing IT. And then obviously, the early adopters and Copilot champions are part of this game as well. The early adopters will help you discover potential issues in the first wave of adoption, but they should also be the most enthusiastic members of the team. So don't just pull in the most enthusiastic folks, as it will also be advised to bring in some of the more hesitant users or the ones who are initially against change. Now, this diagram here is an example of what a user enablement team model could look like. Your model may appear different based on the existing structure and maybe complexity of your organization. But you can use this one as a guideline as you assemble and structure your user enablement team. Now, that said, embracing and introducing Microsoft 365 Copilot into your organization is probably not the first ever tool you implemented. What it means is, if you have good experience and learnings from other tools or platform adoptions, leverage on the success of those projects, and then maybe assemble about the same team if it obviously fits in the Copilot topic. Another more complete representation of what a user enablement model could look like is this diagram here. Without covering all the details, the composition could look as follows. We're going to start from the worldwide executive sponsor. You establish that worldwide user enablement team. This team hooks into IT to enable the core IT services, but also provide support during the adoption phase. Here on the left-hand side, you see a few suggested items of what we call key responsibilities, as well as deliverables of this team. Again, supported by IT and the executive sponsor. And then on the right-hand side, you see a view on what it would describe as the execution team. This could be a more regional or even a local team if you have a global organization, working across different regions and countries. Or it could also reflect individual business teams within the same location. In the end, each role has distinctive responsibilities, and eventually they will all report back to the worldwide leads. Now remember, we positioned the importance of an AI council already earlier. The main objective of such an AI council is to really ensure that the organization AI solution aligns with ethical principles, legal obligations, and social responsibilities. Now, to achieve this, the AI Council defines and communicates the overall organization's AI vision, the values, and obviously its policies. It also reviews and approves AI use cases and projects proposed by different business units, integrating models' trusted leadership behavior, and also monitoring the performance and impact of deployed AI solutions. Additionally, the Council provides guidance and support to all AI practitioners, engages with external stakeholders, and in the end also promotes AI learning and innovation within the total organization. Now, it should be surprising that most of the roles and team members here are identical to the setup of the Copilot adoption team that we discussed earlier. Honestly, imagine your organization adopting different AI services, integrating concepts and platform solutions, where Microsoft 365 Copilot is honestly only one of them. In this specific case, you could have multiple adoption teams all reporting up to the AI Council. This brings me to the Responsible AI Standard. The Responsible AI Standard sets out our best thinking on how we would build AI systems to really uphold our core principles and earn society's trust. It goes beyond broad concepts, offering our teams detailed, actionable guidance to implement these principles effectively in your AI initiatives. Building up on that, the standard details concrete goals or outcomes that teams developing AI systems must strive to secure. These goals help break down a broad principle like accountability into its key enablers, such as impact assessments, data governance, and human oversight. Each goal is then composed of a set of requirements, which are steps that your team must take to ensure that AI systems meet the goal throughout the system lifecycle. And then finally, the standard also maps available tools and practices to specific requirements so that the Microsoft teams implementing have resources to really help them succeeding. Now, you might have heard about the RACI metrics. Remember, responsibility, accountability, consulted, and informed. While it's not exactly the same, I personally often map the RACI project metrics with this responsible AI standard. Now, studies show that 87% of successful transformation projects had visible engagement by executive sponsors. Translating this, it means that without executive sponsors, projects are almost always guaranteed to fail. Summarizing the responsibility of this executive sponsor is usually identified in an A-B-C structure. A means they have to understand the active, visible, and consistent participation as part of the project. B reflects the focus on building and keeping that continuous coalition within the peers. And then C emphasizes the importance of communication. Next, but again, these are merely suggestions. You'll see a list here of what an executive sponsor should do and what other objectives might or may also still take ownership of. Stakeholders are essential in the transformation as they can help you gain buy-in, support, and feedback from senior leaders, managers, but also end users who are involved in or affected by the adoption project. Now, we suggest using the stakeholder management lifecycle for managing your stakeholders. This structured approach will ensure stakeholders are engaged but also supportive of the AI transformation efforts. This lifecycle involves 6 different steps, outlined here on the slide. Now, basically, it comes down to validating strategic objectives, ensuring a clear mission, but also ensuring goals from existing executive stakeholders, as well as the AI Council and even the business leaders within the AI transformation project. Next, you're going to identify all your potential stakeholders, which again could be senior executives, peers, customers, maybe prospective customers, and so on. All of these have influence over your work or an interest in the outcome of it. From there, it's followed by understanding and assessing the stakeholder relationship. You could then, for example, use color code to identify each one based on their attitude, where green means supportive, yellow kind of neutral, and red means critical, which probably means you need to fix it a little bit. From there, use the stakeholder planning sheet, list all stakeholders, and assess their key interest and potential issues. Think about attitudes, the desired support, what's the messaging like, who's owning the relationships, and obviously, what are the different actions. Once you have all that mapped out, you can start developing your communication plan using the Power Influence Grid. Now keep in mind, you should define a communication strategy and cadence for each type of user. Use this as a guide to really personalize the communication plan for your key stakeholders, meeting their individual needs. And then last, not surprising, you should also monitor and adapt continuously, which means on regular intervals, reassess stakeholders' influence, their interest, attitudes, and modify communication where appropriate. Business priorities might change, or I should say, probably always change. People priorities might change as well. Their work situation might change. People always move on to different roles, and then some might actually also leave to other organizations, or maybe even lose interest in remaining part of that adoption and execution team. Remember, we already emphasized a lot how important that human factor is in the success of your adoption of Microsoft 365 Copilot. Now this slide here is just an illustration of what that green, yellow, red mapping that I talked about before could look like for the different stakeholders within the adoption team and obviously later on within the overall rollout project. So next, let's talk a bit about defining a possible business strategy. Collaborate with your team to define objectives and desired outcomes that Microsoft 365 technologies can help you achieve. This could include defining a strategic vision of becoming an AI-powered organization if you plan to adopt Microsoft 365 Copilot, obviously across other AI solutions. So as you begin to outline your business strategy, identify challenges or areas of opportunity to really enhance work processes. A user experience strategy will enable you to quantify the value received from adopting Microsoft 365 Copilot, and then also gives your team a vision and roadmap for success. This also allows you to focus on the needs of the people first and technology second. This aligns with our people-first strategy, which enhances value for your employees, customers, and partners throughout the strategic use of technology. Start by utilizing, for example, our templates that we have available, or why not crafting your own document using Copilot in Microsoft Word. A recommended approach to get this design work done is by conducting a workshop for your team to really define strategy and scenarios. Focus on foundational knowledge and insights about Microsoft 365 AI capabilities and identifying AI-ready scenarios. If you're wondering what such workshop could look like, I can only emphasize to approach it based on scenarios. Scenarios cover the ways your people will use Microsoft 365 technologies to address business challenges and achieving organizational, cultural, tangible, or individual adoption outcomes. Now, if you wonder why scenarios are so important, well, I would say they allow teams to understand how Microsoft 365 as a technology and tooling can help them achieve more. They can also act as input and validation of Microsoft 365 awareness messaging. They support awareness and readiness activities by putting products in context. People will know when and how to use them. Now, the other question is, how do you get started with identifying such scenarios? One suggestion here is beginning with identifying the key use cases and AI-ready scenarios that Microsoft 365 Copilot can support, and from there map them to the relevant products and services. For example, explore the Microsoft Productivity Library, which is a collection of recommended use cases to showcase ideas and how to use the product to your best advantage. Mapping everyday challenges you can solve with Microsoft 365 or Microsoft 365 Copilot across different industries. With that said, remember we covered the buyer customer case in a different module, which could actually give you some hints. Next, explore the Microsoft 365 Copilot Scenario Library, providing guidance on Copilot usage scenarios across personas and products. This will really help starting the conversation with business users about their pain points, opportunities, and ideas, fixing that using Copilot. Another view on scenarios is, for example, this table here. When choosing scenarios, you could consider some of these questions. Does it really solve a problem? Is it obtainable? Will it be widely used? And if so, by how many people? How much return on investment does it really provide? So you could say, consider using this template, and again, it's just an example, when creating scenarios for multiple teams and roles within your organization. Once scenarios have been defined for the organization and the teams and the different roles, it's also important to prioritize so you know where to focus first. Gauging impact and difficulty will help you understand which scenarios will provide the most impact, also the fastest, and which require a little bit more planning. From there, you should capture each expected business value of Microsoft 365 technologies, along with the success measures for each business scenario. Identify how you will measure and report against the measures to gauge adoption. Definitions to help you build your success criteria. There's a lot of them, which are basically the same across most other projects within your organization. It could be some of these. KPI measures or names, which means a high-level summary for the measure. KPI reporting frequency. This reflects the cadence that reporting runs on for this metric. The KPI formula is the detail of the calculation, ensuring it's connected to the data sources as well as instruments below. The data source details on exactly where the data is coming from. How many people, how many users, which different groups do we have, what kind of systems do we have, and so on. Then we're also going to map data gathering, transformation, and analysis, which means how is the data being pulled from those data sources. For example, is this a dynamic pull at 7 a.m. in the morning, like the first Monday of a quarter, Or is this an extract from a static file that's like already 2 weeks old? We also have data gathering instruments. Do we need to create any instruments? Think of surveys, feedback forms, or create overall guidelines on data transformation to collect the data that we want. And then obviously you also have the data gathering owner, stating which person, group of people, could be an individual but preferably across different teams, assigning to each part of the data gathering, transformation, and analysis process. Again, this is an example that obviously you could use as a scorecard template to effectively track and report success, using the different success criteria mentioned on that previous slide. Where then from here, you could also use a template like this one to document your approach to reporting success. After identifying your success criteria, you can start to decide the individuals and departments that require access to the new technology to achieve those objectives. Now, to maximize business impact, you'll need to determine your overall licensing deployment strategy, concentrating seats in 2 or maybe 3 key areas of the business. Now, important here is be intentional, which means be intentional when assigning seats, ensuring that access to Microsoft 365 Copilot is given to those who can leverage it the most effectively. These decisions should be based on where Copilot can have the most impact, potential for improvement, but also meeting defined success criteria within your organization. Now, I know we talked about the success criteria, but honestly, how do you know if your organization is actually ready for adopting Microsoft 365 Copilot? Well, you're going to go through performing a readiness validation. By answering questions like, is our organization and user really ready to adopt the new technology? Looking at different organizational factors, which could be success or, why not, failure rate of maybe previous technology adoption or transformation projects, what kind of internal or maybe external resources can be leveraged? What are the different tasks we need to go through to eventually guarantee success? So with that, we're at the end of this module, where you learn about the initial phase, getting ready, of the adopting Microsoft 365 Copilot project. By identifying and prioritizing scenarios tailored to your organizational needs, leveraging available resources, and setting clear but measurable business goals, you're now equipped to navigate the adoption journey effectively. This foundational knowledge really prepares you for the subsequent phases, ensuring a smooth, successful adoption of Microsoft 365 Copilot. Thank you for watching this module, but at the same time, allow me to invite you to join me on the next one, because our user enablement project is not yet finished. Thanks for now, and see you again soon.